Hi everyone, my name's Mark Austin. I'm a solution architect at Megaport. This is a Megaport Tech drop-in session where we cover a lot of Megaport technologies and solutions in a short period of time. So we generally run around 15 to 20 minutes, 25 minutes on a topic. So today, I'm going to be covering Megaport Internet. So, um, Megaport Internet is available in around 18 countries across the Megaport network. And like everything Megaport, it's available instantly. So if you have a Megaport access product, so a data center port, a Megaport Cloud Router or Megaport Virtual Edge, you can add a Megaport Internet Virtual Cross Connect to that service, and it's available pretty much instantly. So around 60 seconds, you can have that connected to the internet. So Megaport is the internet service provider. We are peering to a number of upstream transit providers in that location, and also the Megaport Internet Exchange if it's available in that location. So it's a combination of internet exchanges and upstream peering to other ISPs. So the scalability of the service, so you can deploy it instantly. You can start at 20 megabits per second all the way up to 100 gigabits per second in 1 megabit per second increments. You can adjust that up and down as required. You can term the product. So, as a default, you can do no term, which is really down to the minute. So you can increase and decrease the speed as required. You can term it on a 12, 24 term, all the way up to 60 month term. If you term it at a speed, say 1 gigabits per second, you can increase that speed up to whatever speed you like for a period of time and then decrease it back down to the termed speed. And you'll just be charged for the time you use that increase in speed for whatever that charge is prorated over a month. So it covers all of those typical flexibility and scalable methods that Megaports provides. You also have diversity capability within a metro. So within a city, Megaport has two border locations for the internet service. So wherever you are in a data center or Megaport Cloud Router or Megaport Virtual Edge, you can connect to one or both of those diversity zones, and that will provide the access out to the internet. Megaport provides the public IP addressing for the service. So we either provide a /30 IPv4 link local range or a /64 link local range for IPv6. And that's for the life of the service that will remain allocated to the link. So the architecture looks like this for a metro. So a metro being something like Sydney, Melbourne, Singapore, Tokyo, for example. Megaport has two locations, one a red diversity zone and a blue diversity zone. That's where the Megaport internet routing infrastructure is located. So your service will be one of the core access products on the left, either a port, an MCR, or MVE, which you then use a virtual cross connect to connect from that service to one of those zones. From that internet zone, that internet infrastructure is peered upstream to multiple ISPs or the Megaport Internet Exchange. And in some other locations, we peer to different internet exchange providers. So a typical deployment could look like this. You have your customer router located within a data center. You cross-connect it to a Megaport Fabric port, and then you deploy a virtual cross-connect from the port to the internet infrastructure, either in the red diversity zone or the blue diversity zone. And essentially within those zones, there's a border internet router, which you will BGP peer from your customer router across the Megaport fabric to that border router. And that's shown by the line here from the customer router to the border router. And that's where the IPv4 and IPv6 address allocation happens. So we use that addressing across that link.
Hi, Mark. Sorry to jump in. It's Dave here. Just to let you know, we do have a question in the Q&A panel. You can answer that now or when most appropriate.
Yeah, I'll answer that at the end. Uh, Thank you, Dave. So, additionally, you can deploy a secondary virtual cross connect from the port. So, a port can support up to 100 virtual cross connects to any point on the Megaport fabric globally. So, you can add an additional VXC to the other zone within that metro, which will provide HA from a internet infrastructure perspective, but the port is still a single point of failure. So we look at the other option here to achieve complete diversity. You deploy an additional port and have the ports connecting through to different internet infrastructure diversity zones, so the red and blue zone. Some of the details here around Megaport Internet. So as a default for all of the Internet VXCs, a /31 IPv4 point-to-point link, or it is a point-to-point link, but a /31 is allocated to that link. Additionally, a /64 IPv6 range is allocated, and you can use that IP addressing, something like NAT. You can do NAT outbound towards the internet and use that IP addressing as the source IP address. Also enabled by default is DHCP for IPv4 and IPv6 on that link. So if you have the typical use case for that is a Megaport Virtual Edge will come online and it will do a DHCP request for an IP address. The Megaport Internet infrastructure will respond with an address allocation. So that's to get the router up and running. So you don't actually need to you don't need to statically define the IP addressing. We put in place filtering based on BCP38. So if you want to look that up, you can and see what that entails. We also block port 25, TCP port 25 outbound by default. But if you do require that, that can be removed. So that's to the basics to get up and running. In most cases, customers will look at running BGP. So BGP with IPv4 and IPv6 is supported. The route table options are default route only, customer route, so that is Megaport customers, internet customers and peers, which is Megaport customers and the IXs, and also the full routing table. So generally, most of the time, it's either default only or full routing table. Also support for BYO addressing, BYO IP prefixes. So as part of that, Megaport puts in place RPK validation on routes. So you need to have that set up within your, so for example, APNIC, you need to have a route object defined. And based on your routing, bring your own routing prefixes, filters are applied to accept only those prefixes. And lastly, there is support for only using a private BGP ASN. In that case, your routes which you advertise will be shown as originating from Megaport's ASN. So what I'll do now is just jump into the portal and show you what that looks like to deploy. So we're going to deploy from a data center port. We can just look at doing that in Sydney in the Equinix SY1 data center. We'll choose a 10 gig port. We'll just call that internet, and we'll go ahead and add that port. So I'll push through that order and deploy it. So what I'm using here is the Megaport staging environment. So it's a simulated environment. So these are not real services. There's nothing that is actually deployed. It's just a simulated front end. But the good thing about it is the port will come online, and it will go live. So you'll see it go green here. And you can deploy all of the Megaport services, Megaport Cloud Router, Megaport Virtual Edge in this environment, and they will show us live, but there's nothing deployed. You're not charged for anything, and it is synced to your production environment. So every 24 hours, it will clear what's in there and just copy across what you have in your production account. So that's deploying now the 10 gig fabric port at Equinix SY1. What I'll do next is add a internet VXC to that internet virtual cross connect. So you can see here we have all the options for virtual cross connects that can be deployed on a fabric port. I'll select Megaport Internet, and you can see here we're presented with a list of diversity zones, or the internet border diversity zones. And if I just search for Sydney, you can see in Sydney we have two, which is a blue and red zone. Given the port here has deployed in the red zone within Equinix SY1, I'll just align that with the red zone for the internet border router. So we'll select that one. It presents here with a default naming for the virtual cross connect. You can change that to whatever you like, and that's you can modify it after you deploy. But the main thing here is to enter your rate limit or the speed. So you can go anywhere from 20 meg all the way up to 100 gig. In this case, I'll just put 1,000. And you are obviously are limited by the port. So a 10 gig port, you can have up to 10 gigabits per second of internet access. The next thing there is to provide a VLAN tag for the service. So we can just put in VLAN tag, and that you can modify that after you deploy. So that's an instant change. The next thing is just to select your term, which will define the price of the service for a month. So if I select no minimum term, for 1 gigabit per second, that's $480 per month. But if I use it just for 5 days, I'll only be charged 5 days of that $480. If I was to select 12 months, so a 12-month term, I can lock in 1 gigabit per second for 12 months at $400. And then if once the service is deployed, I can come back into the service and change the speed upwards to 10 gigabits per second or in between for a period of time, and I'll just be charged for the time that I use that speed. So let's leave it at 12 months, and we'll go through and add that connection. So there's some details I'll show you after this is completed. So you can see the good thing about the staging portal is the port's gone live, so it's green. So if you were to do that in production portal, it wouldn't have gone live because it has nothing physically connected into the port. So you can see here we've added the internet VXC at 1 gigabit per second to the red zone within the Sydney Metro. So if I click on the VXC and look at the details of the service, you can see here the IP address allocation. So the assigned IP for the customer side is shown here. It's a /31 subnet, and the gateway side, which is the Megaport Internet Border Router, is shown here. DHCP is enabled by default. So if the device has that enabled has if the customer edge device has DHCP enabled, this is the address that will be handed out. If you don't have DHCP enabled, you will just statically define that in the configuration. So some other details here. We go to the Megaport Internet page. If you want to enable BGP for this connection, this is the way you do that. So you enter your ASN, optionally a BGP password. You select the route option you want. So, for example, if you just want to receive a default only, you will select that option. If you want to receive the full route table, you will select that option. There's also options here to define an AS set and also enter the public prefixes that you own that you would like to advertise on this service. From an IPv4 perspective, it must be at least a /24 range. Once you select the Update BGP connection option, that will go to the Megaport team for review, and BGP will be enabled generally within 24 to 48 hours. The other option Megaport Internet Service has is to request a public IP block. So this is Megaport address space. So if you don't have your own, you can request that through Megaport. And there is a associated charge with that, and you can reach out to your account manager for that charge. Yeah. So if we jump back here, that's still deploying. But that once that's up and running, internet service is ready to use. BGP does take 24 to 48 hours, but you still will be able to use the internet service. Okay, so that's how easy it is to deploy Megaport Internet. And it's the same process if you want to deploy it on an MCR or an MVE. So we scroll down here, we can see here we've got an MCR. Again, it's the same process, the same workflow to go through and deploy that. So the Megaport Cloud Router supports BGP, so you can advertise your own address space just as you would your own router. So I'll jump back here to just the last couple of slides, and then I'll answer any questions there may be. On top of the Megaport Internet Service, Megaport will be releasing the support for DDoS protection on Megaport Internet. So that's expected to be released within the next 1 to 2 months. That is a Megaport in-house product. So Megaport will be providing the DDoS capability wherever we have Megaport Internet offered globally. Basically, what it consists of is a scrubbing center where Megaport will monitor your traffic flows to look for any traffic which is basically not following a standard pattern and is aligned with either DDoS, a DDoS event or a security event. And if that's detected, within 60 seconds, traffic will be redirected to a local scrubbing center where it will be cleaned and then redirected back to your service. So some of the advantages with the Megaport Megaport DDoS protection service over other services is there's no GRE tunneling required. So it's basically you don't have to add any additional complexity to your device. Megaport offers a flat rate per megabit per second billing model for the service. So if you've allocated one gigabit per second for your internet service, you'll be charged based on 1 gigabit per second for the DDoS protection service. Again, we aligning with all of the Megaport products. There's that you can start with either no term or you can term the product as well. So that aligns with maybe you have got a term on your port or MCR. You can still enable DDoS protection on that. It's a very it's been designed to be a very simple product. So within the portal, you'll be able to select and enable DDoS basically, and there's really no engineering or no setup that needs to be done. It will operate based on standard profiles. So some of the feature comparison against a Megaport DDoS protection versus other product offering in the market. Will be the Megaport product will be available within 60 seconds through the self-service portal versus other DDoS products in the market, which take days to week. Traffic redirection is very simple versus a lot of different capability in other products which may result in blocking of legitimate traffic. The path is native fabric, so there's no tunnels versus GRE tunnel in other products. And again, month to month terms and also longer terms versus a minimum of 12 or 36-month term and higher costs. So that's really an overview of what's coming, and keep an eye out for additional information in the coming weeks. So I'll just take a look at, we have a couple of questions. So can you bring your BYR range? Yes, you can bring your BYR range. You just have to, with public IPv4, you just need to have a minimum of /24 range. And will the Megaport DDoS solution be mandatory or provided as an optional service? So it will be an optional service which you will enable in the portal. So very, very simple option there to enable or not. So that's all the questions we've got, and that completes the session for today. So thanks for listening to Megaport Internet and Megaport DDoS protection.